Welcome to Higgins Sanity. I'm your host, Jason Higgins, and today is a special episode because we are going to be talking about the retirement of my father, Jeff Higgins. And what a coincidence, because today is Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to all the fathers around the world. Now, my dad, 51 years in the restaurant business. 51 years. It's a long time. No matter what company, what business, what field you're in, 51 years in the same business, same restaurant, same company, that's wild. That's wild. Ultimate loyalty. Now, Logansport, Indiana, at 15 years old, he went into Long John Silver's. Now, if you don't know Logansport, Indiana, it's a very small town, about 25 minutes from Kokomo. He started at 15 years old, and he worked his way up the ladder, became district supervisor / owner for about 18 Long John Silver's. Now, over the time he was district supervisor, those Long John Silver's turned into not just Long John Silver's. They turned into Long John Silver's / A&W's, and the one in Logansport actually turned into a Long John Silver's / KFC when I was in middle school. And that's where he left this last Tuesday at 51 years. Now, he's not fully retiring because if you want to see his face, because he's a genuine dude, you'll be able to catch him on most Friday and Saturday nights in Logansport at the high school coaching the JV boys Berries basketball team. And usually the first games are close to Thanksgiving. Usually we play Peru, first game of the year. Cass County invites usually around that time. So about towards the end of November, mid-November is usually their first game. So you'll be able to catch them on most Friday and Saturday nights. But in those 51 years, my dad had multiple workers from management to line workers, cashiers, etc., that have worked 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 plus years for my dad. And to have somebody work that length of time for someone says everything you need to know about my dad. Because you don't hear that. You hear a lot of turnover at a lot of places, especially nowadays. And in the restaurant business especially, and in a small town like Logansport, a lot of times like employees that work there are usually like high school workers or college workers or ones that are switching in between jobs unless you're in management or unless you're a lead. Usually those entry-level positions are those high school jobs. You know, I worked there when I was in high school. I worked as a cashier. I worked the line, drive-through. I did a little bit of cooking when they absolutely needed me to. Because I was the talker, I was the personable one, cashier, drive-through, that kind of stuff. But I also mowed and power washed Long John's KFC for a number of years. And so I've been around there for a long time. A lot of the workers that worked for my dad were like family to me. I've known them for a very long time. I've seen a lot of them, when I went to my first prom. They've been to my basketball games, graduation parties, big events. The list goes on. I spent a lot of time there, especially in high school. Before a lot of my basketball games, I'd stop there after school and I'd get a couple pieces of grilled chicken, some green beans, mac and cheese, and that kind of be like my pregame meal. So, but with my dad, I kind of based my leadership off him, and I've been blessed, obviously, to be able to call him as my father and to be able to learn from him from the past 31 years that what really leadership needs to be. And his leadership is second to none. It really is. And he does a really good job balancing business and people. And especially nowadays, a lot of leaders, they don't know how to balance business and people. They focus so much more on that business aspect that they lose the people. They lose the people aspect. That's why their turnover ratio is so high. You have to treat people with respect. You got to treat people like you care about them, like you want them around, like they're in the trenches. And you got to be able to show that you care about them. But at the same time, you have to know business, because you can care about the people more than anything. But if you don't know expenses, you don't know how to control revenue, you don't know how to manage that business aspect side of things, then you still don't have that culture. I mean, if you don't focus on the people at all, you don't have a work culture. You have a hostile work environment. But at the same time, if your business is going under, you're going to have a hostile work environment anyways, because everyone's going to be so stressed because they don't know if they have a job come Tuesday. So, my dad says it. He's very black and white, but he says it in the right way. He's very professional, and he says it in a genuine way. Now, if you tick the guy off, which I've done for a number of times in a number of years, and sometimes I did it on purpose because, that's just me. But he stuck up for anybody. He'd give his last shirt off his back for any one of his employees. I've seen that guy stick up for not just me, but for a lot of people there. Not just Long John's KFC, but coaching. The dude has coached a number of players from all over for 20 plus years. And, I learned how to shoot the basketball from him. I can say that I would have never played college basketball if it wasn't for my dad. My dad and Coach Yeoman are the two biggest men in my life that helped me succeed in basketball. And, I remember my dad, especially back in high school, it could be a Thursday night. We played on Friday and Saturday nights, so it'd be a Thursday after school. We'd practice right after school for 2 hours. And he coached middle school at the time. And I would just text him, call him, and say, hey, are you still at the gym? Can I go get an extra 500 jump shots up before the game tomorrow? Of course. And he'd work all day at Long John's KFC from like 8 a.m. until 5. Go coach middle school from 5:30 till 7:30. I'd show up at the middle school from 7:30 to 9:30 getting shots up. And then he would go home and eat dinner. Then he would go home and shower, get ready for bed, get his extra work done, his paperwork done, because he still had extra stuff to do for work. And with that being said, I can't thank him enough, because, he spent a lot of time and effort helping me succeed. And he did that for his employees as well. He stayed extra months to make sure vacations were paid out. He worked extra days. He worked the line. He got out there out front when they were super busy. He led by example. A lot of leaders don't know how to lead by example. They think they've gotten to the top of the totem pole, that the rules don't matter to them, and they can put all these policies and procedures out, but they don't live by them. And to me, you got to lead by example. And that's what my dad did. He put a product out there and he lived by it. That's him. And he was very genuine, and what you got from him, but he's got an unbelievable personality. The dude cracks jokes like no other. My wife loves him. My wife thinks he's the funniest person in the world, besides me, obviously. And he's very quick with it. He don't think. And that's how I am, is he's very quick with it. He says things, he's funny, and he's a joy to be around. And he's a carefree person. He's very caring. He's a family first. He's done so much for the family. And, the list goes on. I mean, I could talk about him for hours. And I'm so excited because, me, I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan. Hoo-day! Hoo-day! Cincinnati Bengals. Unfortunately, my dad's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I threw up in my mouth a little bit. Because anyways, unfortunately, he's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So, my wife and I decided, because my dad's never been to Pittsburgh, and he's been a lifelong Pirates, Steelers, he watched the Penguins. He's a Pittsburgh guy. We got him Pittsburgh Steelers tickets for October 11th, and they play the Indianapolis Colts. And he is excited like no other. Excited like no other. And we got pretty good seats. Kind of expensive, but pretty good seats. Not as expensive as the Colts games, which, it's wild. I've been to a lot of Bengals games at Cincinnati, and I'll just be honest, the seats and tickets are cheaper at Cincinnati, and I love the stadium, and I love Cincinnati. I mean, it's the Queen City. If you've never been to Cincinnati, you have to go. I mean, you're really doing yourself an injustice if you do not go to Cincinnati. But let's backtrack, get back to Pittsburgh. Got him some really good seats at Pittsburgh. He's already picked out his hotel. I told him to get on TikTok, find some restaurants, things like that. Take full advantage of this. You've never been to Pittsburgh. Enjoy it. This has been a lifelong dream from him. He's a big Heinz Ward, Ben Roethlisberger, the bust, Jerome Bettis. He's a big TJ Watt fan. Troy Polamalu, Ryan Clark. List goes on. So, I know a lot of Steelers players because, unfortunately, I had to watch a lot of Steelers football growing up. And with me being a Bengals fan, we automatically play them twice a year. They drive me nuts. But it is what it is. I'm excited for him, and so unfortunately I'll have to deal with seeing Steelers stuff pop up on my apps for the next probably 3 or 4 months. So I'm going to have to watch so much more Cincinnati Bengals things, even though I do repetitively every day. I'm going to have to. So, but I'm excited for him. My mom and him are going to be able to do that, and I'm really happy for them, and it's something that he more than deserves. And I want him to be able to enjoy this. So that's kind of his retirement and his Father's Day gift, kind of all in one because, it's just something really special for him. So he deserves it. And, I can't thank him enough. So I know his employees can't thank him enough. I know Long John's KFC can't thank him enough. The Young Corporation can't thank him enough. All those things being said, not only was he a great businessman, but he's an even better person. And I can't wait for him to get back into the coaching because that is something he loves to do and something he has so much knowledge about. And not just the basketball aspect of things, he has so much life knowledge that he can help so many people grow in so many areas. And he's such a great brain to be able to pick from. And, it's so crazy, like, with his basketball knowledge. Like, I shot probably over 1 million shots in my life, easily, because I used to shoot 500 jump shots a day for years. And if my shot was just a little bit off, I could shoot 1 or 2 shots, and he'd know exactly what was going on with it. He'd tell me exactly how to fix it, and then, boom, my shot's back on. I mean, it was just crazy. And, those days where being in the batting cage in October, hitting for baseball practice and 40, 50-degree weather, in the gym, shooting 500 jump shots, doing 2-ball drills, pitching all the time, doing cone drills, all those stuff. He was out there in the rain. He was out there in the snow. He was out there with the stopwatch doing all those things. He was my coach. He was my dad. He was my best friend. And we got to go to a lot of places together and spend a lot of great time with each other growing up just because of all the tournaments. And kudos to my mother, the cameraman, or camera woman, so to speak, and spending all the time on the bleachers, in the car, in the stands, in the field, in the sun, cold gyms, hot gyms, all those years, dragging me to baseball, basketball tournaments, soccer tournaments, football. It's wild. And, it's crazy to think how much time and effort they had to put in to help me succeed. And so I am more than grateful to have the dad that I had and have in my life. And so, again, happy retirement, Dad. Happy Father's Day. Enjoy it. You more than deserve it. It was also his anniversary yesterday. So, again, happy belated anniversary to my mom and dad. And, he's the prime example of what loyalty, hard work, and dedication is. It really is. So please follow and support Higgins Sanity. I got wristbands in now, which are super cool. I actually have it on right here. Higgins Sanity Entertainment. They actually glow in the dark too, and they're not like super bright to where like you'll see it from a mile away, but I mean it glows. It's actually pretty neat. I like it a lot. So if you want one, shoot me a message, follow me, subscribe, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. So you can catch me on one of those social media platforms. And I hope you all have a great day. We're over here inspiring minds and educating lives over here. So Higgins Sanity Entertainment. Have a good one.